This is Toon Talk Weekly, episode 194. This week, Brad and I get galactic when we watch an episode of the series Atomic Betty.
When you're tied up in the desert, balls and salty snacks, nothing ends your thirst like busyness.
One Fizzy Max, please. A robust and fruity flavor.
Me want more.
That's the idea, sucker.
The day just keeps getting better.
Where is that kid?
Hey everybody, it's Tuesday once again. That means it's time for another episode of the weekly cartoon podcast, Toon Talk Weekly. That, of course, is this show. So thank you for joining us once again this week to talk all about some cartoons. I'm not the only voice you're going to hear today. I'm Jake Williams, but I brought along my good buddy and fellow animator, Brad Chmielewski. What's up this week, Brad?
How's it going?
It's going well,
Good to be
man.
back, recorded more, talking about cartoons.
I know, it's kind of weird because we obviously, like, it's no secret we work together, so we talk to each other every single day. We can't
Except
escape
on
it.
Saturdays. We don't talk on Saturday.
Yeah, we have a rule. It's a friendship rule that says, look, we can only talk 6 days a week. 7 is just too much.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore. Yeah, it's going pretty good. I failed on my mission from last week, which was to throw on some more Teen Titans Go because we like that show so much.
Yeah, I forgot about it. Or I didn't forget. I just forgot to do that as well.
Yeah. What the problem was, I restarted another show that I've seen already. I started Silicon Valley over again because I love that show so much from HBO. And here's the problem, dude. I got to stop, watching stuff I've already watched. I really have to, watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
why am I wasting my time?
You do that with a lot of shows where you just start the show again. It's like, you haven't seen so much stuff, man. You gotta...
Yeah, why am I can't be forward about things or speak well on things if I haven't seen them. I can't just take the marketing at face value. Here's a good example. I was thinking about this the other day. So this is going to be controversial. I kind of like John Mayer. He's got a really good album, but when I bring him up to people, they mention oh, he dated so and so and he's a bad boy or whatever. He had a bad reputation. I'm like, yeah, but if that's all I thought and never just listen to the album, I would just think this. But instead, I can listen to the album and appreciate it. You know, It's kind of the same. If I hear things about a show, let's say I never watched Teen Titans Go, and someone said it's amazing, I would just have to trust that, and that's what I would tell other people. It's like this weird cyclical, almost like telephone kind of game you play with your friend group, right? I don't know.
Okay.
And that's my biggest problem is that I know a lot about things that are happening. I don't check them out. I check out the shows we talk about here on Toon Talk Weekly, and that's what we're here to do once again this week. This week's cartoon is a little show called Atomic Betty. It's a cartoon that I think Brad and I hadn't heard about at all, and I think it brings our number of Canadian cartoons we've covered up significantly. We do this a lot. They make some good cartoons up in Canada.
Well, they just make a lot of cartoons. I think they're funded differently, so I think they kind of have to.
I do think there's grants and things that you can get to actually make cartoon series, but they've been hit or miss, but I mean for the most part I think we found some pretty good ones we like. GarageBand was notably one of the first ones we liked a lot.
Yeah.
So Atomic Betty is another one in the series of Canadian cartoons that we'll cover on Toon Talk Weekly. It's a Canadian-French animated series produced by Atomic Cartoons. Wow, that's hilarious that it was produced by Atomic Cartoons, and the show's called Atomic Betty. Do you think when they were
Maybe
producing,
planned.
yeah, they were like,
Yeah.
we need to find a studio that'll
Or
match.
this was or the studio was like, we need a cartoon idea. We should do a cartoon named after our studio. Yeah.
That's true. Like a studio's first project.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could make sense. So Atomic Cartoons, Breakthrough Entertainment, and Tele Images Kids. Additional funding was provided by Teletoon Canada. So, yeah, you're right. We do see some funding, especially we always hear of Teletoon, which seems to be the biggest channel or producer of this content.
Yeah, I think they have a weird, not weird rule, but just a rule kind of like almost like a PBS kind of rule where they have to do kids cartoon. Like they have so much programming on TV has to be for children.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now that I think of it. Especially the way these shows have been covered and some of the background we find in them. They all seem pretty similar, like how they come to be, right? I also I feel like there was one cartoon, I don't know if it was Scaredy Squirrel or something else we watched where it felt like there was a very big educational component to it, and we were like, as the adults, just kind of picking up on it.
Yeah,
But
might have been Scary Squirrel.
it was something like that. No PSAs here in Atomic Betty, though, that we could find. Not in this episode, at least. The show originally aired in Canada from 2004 to 2008, and then in the United States it was 04 to 06 on Cartoon Network, and then the Hub Network actually picked it up, which I think they've rebranded. I'm not sure what the rebrand is.
That's right.
From 2010 to 2011, so actually much later than the show's premiere. It was like, do you guys want this Atomic Betty cartoon? Because here you go. And 3 seasons, 78 episodes, which comprised 156 segments, and a 1-hour Christmas special total for Atomic Betty. So that's essentially everything you need to know about what became of this show. A little bit more about how it's produced. Atomic Cartoons, which is based in Vancouver, writes and produces the animation, and they use Adobe Flash, as best I can tell. Man, have any of these shows we've ever covered, we know the software, different software packages because we do animation for our jobs, but how many use After Effects? I don't know if I've ever heard of a cartoon using After Effects.
Yeah, I don't think it's usually a tool built for animating, but you know, we may we may push that soon. We may tackle something like that soon. So
yeah. It's kind of interesting though. I got to imagine part of it is just because don't get me wrong. When I was a kid, I took tutorials on Flash and stuff because it was around. I didn't know what After Effects was, so I feel like it was probably a product of that. Plus, Flash's drawing tools and the way it handles like what do you call them, symbols or icon animation is like way better. So.
Right. Yeah.
Now we're getting a little too inside. If you don't animate, you might not know all these little tiny details we're talking about. So I'll quit nerding out. We have Tele Images Kids produces the animation and voice direction for French language versions. Breakthrough Films and Television actually handles the distribution outside of Canada. And as we mentioned, 3 seasons, 78 episodes. So that's Atomic Betty for you. That's how it came to be. But you might be asking yourself, what is Atomic Betty all about? It sounds like a cool burger diner in a city, in like a hip neighborhood.
Oh, that would be a sweet show. Yeah, it's just almost like a Bob's Burger, but
like a cool hip
but
diner.
hipper.
Yeah. But there probably have to be some sci-fi fantasy aspect to it, I think, too. It can't just be about a burger. I guess it could be. That's our cartoon, Atomic Betty, but like totally different.
Atomic Bobs, or
Atomic
maybe not Bob, but
Atomic Bobs. I like that. Yeah.
Galaxy Greg.
Galaxy Greg's Gourmet Burgers. Yeah.
Damn. Oh,
money.
Yeah, new show. Man.
All the money keeps raining in. This is where I add a money graphic to the new video version. Just falling from the sky. The story of Atomic Betty is that we follow our main character, Betty Barrett. Or Barrett. I think it's Barrett. She's your typical 12-year-old girl. She loves science fiction movies. That right there, hold on, is not your typical 12-year-old girl. I defy this character description.
Typical 12-year-old girl, loves NASCAR.
She really enjoys, I don't know, wrestling and...
Just, like every girl does.
Just your typical 12-year-old girl. Jeez. So she loves science fiction movies, playing in her band, and she lives in the town of Moose Jaw Heights. Until Betty finds out that she's actually an alien. Bum, bum, bum. She's actually a member of the Galactic Guardians, who is an elite team dedicated to interstellar crime fighting and law enforcement. So many of the episodes will follow Betty. The format is pretty much, and the structure is pretty much the same for every episode. Betty will start the day with her friends doing like I don't want to say mundane, but a usual common thing she would be doing as a 12-year-old with her friends, either at school or at home or wherever. And then she'll suddenly have her watch beep, and she'll be called into action to go do something. She has to then go fight Maximus IQ is the main evil villain and his evil plots, and then get back to her friends and be like, "Oh man, I had to go." Like weird, and they just nobody knows.
Her friends don't know, right? That she's because a lot of the shows we end up watching, the sidekick or best buddy knows that they're a superhero, they're an alien, because like it gets hard to keep that stuff from your friend,
right?
Especially as a kid,
especially a friend you hang out with 6 days a week, not on Saturdays.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. There's no way you can hide that for that long. As far as I know, her friends are unaware of her alienness, that she's an alien. And there was actually an episode I almost chose for this where it was interesting that it's funny to see the tiny little ways that her friends point out that she leaves all the time, or she goes to do things. There was an episode I almost chose where there was suddenly there wasn't any more crime. Like, no, there's no more crime, so the Galactic Guardians weren't needed anymore. And her friends are even like, "Hey, Betty, your watch hasn't beeped in like 2 weeks. That's so weird. You usually leave by now." The evil plan in that episode, by the way, was Maximus IQ just not doing crime for a little while so that they'll think there's no crime, and then doing crime later.
No, okay, that's pretty good.
He might be one of the best villains ever, really. So the main characters we'll come across this week on this show, Atomic Betty, is Betty Barrett, of course. She's our main protagonist. Also goes by Atomic Betty when she's in her Galactic Guardian, her superhero form. We have Sparky, who is Betty's alien lieutenant and pilot. He's kind of the green little boy who's also an alien, but he's kind of there to help her on her journeys. And probably my favorite character in this series so far, X5, the hovering robot. He's this like awesome looking yellow robot that, as far as robot designs go, he's up there, man.
Yeah, he was pretty neat. He was like kind of annoying. Also, I don't know, like 'cause his design was fine, but personality wise, I want nothing to do with him.
He was like, if you want to go personality, he was almost like no personality, but definitely programmed to like, look, I have a job to do. I can't be your friend. I got to just like make this antidote and I'll get to it, basically. The main villains we have this week, there's tons of villains in the series. All kinds of different episodes feature different villains and different galactic problems that Betty needs to solve. But Maximus IQ is the main villain. He is I'm just going to call him a space cat. He's a cat in space. And he has a henchman who's a tiny guy named Minimus PU, which is, that's funny. Minimus, he also kind of looks like a cat, but he has like a head that spins around. He's got like an evil side and like a nerdy side, or like a good side or something. There was like a scene of it in this episode, but I don't know. The character doesn't make any sense to me. Tiny little henchman.
Yeah, okay.
So if you guys want to follow along, a lot of Atomic Betty's online. I couldn't tell you if it's on Netflix or Hulu, but I think I found some episodes on YouTube, so you can watch some of them over there. We have Season 2, Episode 5, entitled Pop Goes the Max. This is an 11-minute episode, again, one of the shows that was kind of produced in 2 segments per half-hour block. And I chose it because we're going to talk about soda, something I used to love, and I don't drink that much anymore, but I could go for one right now.
Oh, I just got one just before we started recording here, sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Oh, man, is this Bizarro World? Because this Bizarro World, am I Brad? Because I'm holding up a beer. Like, what's going on?
Oh, man. I also have a coffee here, so I'm just mixing my caffeines.
You're close. It'll be beer right after the show. But seriously, sponsored by Coca-Cola. Toon Talk Weekly, episode 100. So Pop Goes the Max, this episode of Atomic Betty. We start with the beginning of kind of what is going to be the plot here from Maximus IQ in this episode. And it's a commercial for the new soda, the highly addictive Pop Goes the Max. The commercial is shot and animated very much in the same vein as like, I feel like the Pepsi and Coke commercials that we grew up with. Whereas like, look how cool it is to have this soda. Man, maybe it was borderline Surge commercial level. Like not as aggressive.
Maybe, yeah.
But and it's advertising how good the soda is. And this is where we see a henchman or somebody else go up to Minimus, who's manning a bar, basically, of pop soda, like not beer, guys. This is a kids show. And he asks for a soda, and as soon as he drinks it, he turns into this giant mutant, right? So now this is the basis of the plan here, is that Maximus is going to brainwash people with advertising. And, boy, does this sound like present day or what? What is going on? Brainwash people with advertising to get them to drink this highly addictive soda. By the way, the ingredients in this soda will turn you into a mutant, and his plan is to use these mutants to then go, I think, invade some other planet, right? It wasn't Earth, it was some robot planet.
Yeah.
And so we cut to Betty after this sort of precursor of the episode and what the galactic problem is going to be. And Betty's with some of her friends. Her friends are doing she has like a little, like a crystal ball, almost like a, what do you call it? Not tarot card reader,
Fortune teller.
Fortune teller. There you go. I was like psychic fortune teller. She's like hovering around a gumball machine. It's got the whole setup right, and they're playing like a little game that 12-year-old kids might play, basically telling Betty what her future is. She mentions a few things. One of them is like, oh, your friend will grow or change right before your eyes, or you're gonna see lots of bubbles, like something like that. Just being very nondescript, just having fun with her friends. But this will come back later in the episode, I swear. Mm-hmm. But while they're playing, Betty suddenly has to leave. Of course, her watch, right? The
watch goes off, yeah.
Goes off, and she's like, okay, well, you can mind read my other friend here. I gotta go, like, tell him his fortune. And instantly she's transformed into Atomic Betty. I don't remember if there was a song, but there's definitely a sweet-looking action scene, right, where she jumps into her cool-looking suit. It's straight up out of the Jetsons era, kind of Atomic, right?
Yeah, she gets, like, sucked up, like, Simpsons kind of thing where they get sucked up.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like into the spaceship there. Like, she just gets beamed up, kind of.
Yeah. Where her crew of Sparky and X5 are delightfully waiting for her to start whatever the mission is. I think all they can see and what they know might be happening is they hear it actually from the chief. They're getting a briefing about, like, hey, we're not sure what's going on. All these mutants just started showing up, so if you could go ahead and figure that out. My favorite part of this scene, and maybe this entire episode, guys, is the chief is just like weightlifting while talking to them. Like, he's just sweaty, and he's like, oh, you need to do it quickly. And I'm like, Chief, you look like you're not really helping.
Yeah, it was kind of, he just phoned it in, basically.
Yeah, he's like, look, I got a couple more sets here. If I don't get my curls in, this isn't going to look good for my physique. I need you to go solve this galactic problem.
Atomic Betty reporting for duty.
Welcome, Atomic Betty. I'm afraid we have a problem. Something is turning decent, law-abiding citizens into rampaging mutants. Observe. What can be causing such mayhem? We need you to find the answer. DeGill out. Ow!
Any ideas?
Right now, my memory circuits are loaded with over 100 billion ideas. However, none of them can help us.
So they set off to go figure out what they assume Maximus IQ is behind it. Meanwhile, Sparky is like, oh, well, guess what? I procured myself one of those fancy new, what's it called? Fizzy Max, I think is the soda. He's like, I procured myself one of these Fizzy Max vending machines or gosh, I'm like forgetting everything today. What is it called when you get soda?
Machine.
Yeah, soda machine.
It's just just soda machine.
I'm overthinking what it is. Before he can drink any of it, he's really excited to have some soda. Like a drop of it splashes and starts, like, it almost melts the computer. Like, you can see the steam come off of it. So Betty immediately thinks something's up with the soda. Like, that's what's got to be going on here.
Mm-hmm. And we, as the audience, already knew this. We're like, yeah. I felt like I was watching, like, really? Like, all right, yeah.
Like,
get to it. Get on with it.
We kind of knew it was going to happen here. And I think another drop in this scene inside of their ship, basically, drops onto, like, a nearby plant and turns it into this mutant piranha plant that starts grabbing at the crew, tries to, like, tangle them up, and the crew has to kind of fight this thing back. This is I think this is when they realize, like, okay, it's the soda, and that's what's turning people into mutants. We need to find a way to, I believe it's X5 here decides, like, we need an antidote, which is funny because they like, let's do that instead of recall all the soda. But I guess that's quicker.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, they had to stop the mutants that were already mutants, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So,
right before they actually took over this planet.
yeah.
It's here when we see Sparky on the crew decide, like, he's like fighting with himself. This scene is me with soda these days because I don't drink a whole lot of it anymore. But like, I'm like, I really want it, but I know I don't need it. It's like not good for me, but like, maybe just a drop. Like, it's not gonna hurt me that bad. I thought maybe this is why I picked this episode, because this is my relationship with soda these days. And he eventually gives in, drinks a little bit of it, and he's like, "See, guys, nothing wrong." And of course, he turns into a mutant as well. Like, they can't stop him.
If only I could taste you, Fizzy Max. It's not fair. So sweet. Ah.
I'll have Central Command seize all the remaining product. Oh, yes, that's the spot.
No, I mustn't. Maybe one sip. No! One sip? What harm can it do?
X5 is going to attempt to synthesize an antidote to reverse the mutations. Betty, out. Sparky, no! That's an order.
See? Nothing happened. No harm done.
Sparky!
And this is where we see the scene of they've gone to this planet, or gone to where Maximus, they're kind of like hiding up on a ridge, and they see what he's going to do. He's going to take all these mutants and go invade this other planet. But now Sparky is one of those mutants too, so of course he quickly boards the ship with the other mutants to head off to this planet before they can stop him. Oh no, what will we do now?
Yeah. I feel like he didn't. Why did he just leave, and why wouldn't he attack them and like try to just destroy them? It was weird.
So I guess we're presuming here that the soda is both a mutant transformation serum, but also some sort of mind-altering, like, you now have one directive and we will give it to you. Sort of, yeah, I guess. Maybe we're getting a little too advanced here. There is a small scene where we cut back to the friends of Betty, just to remind you, the audience, that, hey, remember, she's a little girl and her friends are playing still.
This is still going on. She went and saved the universe while her friend just still got his fortune told.
Yeah, part of the fortune was like, oh, you're going to go on a trip soon. She's like, yeah, thanks. Yeah.
But then you have like an interesting line with Betty and the fortune teller where she's like, oh, in order for me to tell the future, I would need a time traveling machine from sector, Voltron 8. And it was like, huh? Like, oh, you're not.
Oh, maybe she's an alien too. Yeah. And this is also where throughout the episode, you see Betty remember the fortunes that were told in the beginning. The bubbles, right, have to do with the fizz maybe in the soda, and one of her friends is going to transform or grow or something like that before your eyes, which is Sparky drinking the soda and becoming kind of this new thing.
Yeah.
The final battle scene of the episode is those great classic standoffs of like one army to the left and one to the right, and they're just charging at each other. Mutants versus the robots on this planet. And Betty springs into action to both save Sparky at the same time and sort of stop the uprising or whatever is happening here. But at the same time, X5 is manufacturing some sort of antidote that they can spread, essentially crop dust, over all of these mutants. Man, was this action scene really short?
It was. It was just like the whole episode is short, and this was just like, okay, that's done.
She like flew in, maybe hit a couple of things, threw down a shield over her and Sparky, and the next vibe was like, yo, the antidote, it's done. But a minute ago, he said, I'm going to need some more time. You didn't need that much more time, dude. I don't know. It was just... A lot of these shows, I feel like there's usually a bigger sort of action sequence near the end here when they spring into action, but I don't know, I just felt like it was really fast. So anyway, all of the mutants, they crop dust this antidote all over them. They turn back into the regular people that they are. The robots decide to not do anything. They're just like, okay, well, just go ahead and leave our planet now. We don't need you to keep going.
Like, that's fine, yeah.
And I believe this is also where Maximus is... It's very much like a Team Rocket moment where he's like, nah, I'll get you next time or something. That's pretty much all it is, right? And they do discuss the future, right? They're like, X5, we need to manufacture way more antidotes so we can put it out, but of course X5 is like, it's going to cost you $9.95. Very, very entrepreneurial little robot. And Betty goes back to her friends. This is where the time machine comment comes in, and also the boy who's a friend here mentions like, oh, she said I was going to go on a trip, and that doesn't make any sense, and then trips on a soda can on his way out.
Yeah. Classic.
Bum. This was season 2, episode 5 of Atomic Betty. Pop goes the max. You kind of heard our thoughts about how to describe like what happened in the episode, but Brad, just general thoughts on the show, the look of it, anything else you got?
Look was nice. It felt like I was watching a show for children. I know it's a cartoon, but it felt like for like 5-year-old. It wasn't that clever. And not. I think this is a problem with some of the Canadian shows we watch, like Squirrely, Scaredy Squirrel. Same idea. It looks really nice, but when the writing happens, it's like, oh, that just was not very good.
Yeah, I couldn't pick up any data on like how well it performed or how popular it was. And I'm considering, I guess, that if I hadn't heard about it, then it didn't transcend that level of like what Adventure Time did or what, SpongeBob or something did.
Well, also, I think that it's in 4x3, right? So it's not like getting made anymore, right?
No, it was 04 to 08 is when it originally aired. Yeah. Also, isn't it funny that anytime we watch something before 09, I forget that that's when the whole like digital HD transfer over happened. So I'm like, why is stuff not 16:9?
Yeah. It's kind of strange.
Yeah. I don't know. Overall, I love the look of the character. I think a couple of the other characters are great. I'm not a fan of the villain look. Maximus IQ just kind of looks like stock level Flash villain or something. But man, I feel like the show could be so much more. I also wasn't like blown away by it, but I feel like it's got a really cool concept, and I understand it's got a younger audience, but it has like that younger audience, but doesn't have those adult jokes and like comments written in that like a parent would also get and find funny.
Right.
If we shouldn't compare, but if we were comparing it to something like Teen Titans Go the week prior, there was stuff that older people or adults or parents watching could enjoy with their kids because, oh, I know what he said there. My kid probably doesn't. But just some cleverness in the writing I think was missing. There was a very straightforward kid show, I think aimed at probably, young kids, young girls especially. It's a cool heroine in cartoons, but yeah, I don't know, man. Something about it just felt a little empty. There was something missing from the show that could have made it pretty cool. I think that's the official Toon Talk review.
Something missing. Could have been cooler.
Start doing one-word titles or one-line titles to all of our cartoons.
Yeah, soundbite podcast.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get out of here. I don't want to poo-poo on Atomic Betty that much. Like, I don't think it's that bad of a show. I just think I'm gonna say it's not one of my top favorites.
No, I probably won't go back and watch it. I know it exists now, but if someone was to bring it up later, like in a year from now, I'd be like, what was that? Yeah.
So Soda Mutants, right? Yeah. That must be the one. Cool. Let's get out of here. Brad, where can people find you when you're not recording this podcast?
You can follow me on Twitter. It's @brad, and then my blog is digitalhitchhiker.com.
Great. Guys, go check them out. Again, Brad's still posting the stills with the little meme descriptions underneath them from the episodes. If you forgot maybe what the episode was about, he's posting those over on his blog.
Not mean descriptions.
No, meme. Yeah. No, Brad's mean to every single show we watch, and it's on his blog. You can check it out there.
These are the Toon Talk mean reviews.
Yeah. Brad's real review. I know what I said on the show, but here's what I really think. Yeah. You guys can follow me on Twitter @JacobWilliams. And, of course, if you want more Toon Talk Weekly, we're on social media as well. Twitter @Toon Talk Weekly, Facebook.com/Toon Talk Weekly, and we're over on Google Plus as Toon Talk Weekly as well. The email, you want to let us know, maybe we watched a bad episode. Maybe there's more to Atomic Betty that we didn't quite understand.
Maybe, yeah.
What else should we check out? Let us know, toontalkweekly@gmail.com. We love hearing from you guys, what you think of the show and how we're doing. And, hey, let us know how we're doing with the video show because we have a lot of fun producing it. It gives a different look to the show, and some of the things that we're describing we can actually show visually for you to see as well.
Different audience, too. I think there's, the YouTube watcher is different than the podcast listener.
Yeah, I think it's a good show to watch, too, because we describe it, and, being animators and illustrators, we pay attention to some details some of that stuff maybe doesn't come through on audio. And sorry, guys, we waited 3 years before we decided to show you anything. So, and finally, ToonTalkWeekly.com is the main hub for the show. If you want all the episodes, they're over there alphabetically on the right-hand side of the homepage, and you can find more information over there. So that's going to do it for this week's show. I am unprepared, guys, this week. I'm not even ashamed to admit it. I don't have a show for next week. Or I don't have a tease for a show next week, but we will do a show next week. So with that, let's get out of here. That's going to be it for this week's episode. Guys, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week with another cartoon.
Take care.
To learn more about the show, visit ToonTalkWeekly.com or follow us on Twitter @ToonTalkWeekly.